Welcome to Dan the Road Trip Guy. I'm your host, Dan, and each week we'll embark on a new adventure, discovering memory and life lessons of our incredible guests. From everyday travelers to thrill seekers and everyone in between, this podcast is your front row seat to inspiring stories of passion, resilience, and the pursuit of happiness. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Today it's my good friend Jeff Zurcher and I. We have never watched the Indianapolis 500 together, but that has not stopped us from continual texting during the race, no matter where each one of us was at. We literally text hundreds of messages back and forth during the race with our own commentating on the race, and this year was no different. In the past, we've done a pre-race show to talk about the upcoming race, and sometimes the reception is just not good if I'm at the speedway. So this year we decided we'll do a post-race show when each of us was sitting in our own studios. And that's what you got coming at you. Just a few minutes with me and my good friend Jeff Zurcher as we talk about the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. I hope you enjoy this conversation between two friends who just love the Indianapolis 500. Well, we typically do a pre-race show. My good friend Jeff Zurcher and I have done it a few years in a row, but today we decided let's do a post-race show. Number one, because it's very difficult to get a cell connection. I was in Indianapolis. Jeff was back here in lovely Cincinnati. So how you doing, Jeff?
Hey, good afternoon, Dan. A lot better weather today, Memorial Day, than it was yesterday, certainly. I know you took some rain and some cold there at the track.
We were not dressed appropriately for the day, but, we got through it.
We were watching the broadcast on TV, of course, and they were showing fans with not necessarily winter coats, but certainly fall attire. And my son, Cale, asked me, Dad, is it cold there? And I said, well, it's cold enough. They were showing a temperature of 63 degrees and a track temperature to start about 72, which caused some issues early on.
The sun never came out, and the wind continued to blow. And then we get outside, we're walking back to our car, and my wife and I looked at each other, and it was like, there's no wind now.
Somehow it gets down into the 300,000 people in circles around that track.
I'll tell you, it was a packed place, that's for sure.
Yeah, I believe they said it was the first sellout in, 2009, 2010.
Yeah, something like that.
Might be wrong, but it's the first time in a long time. So
there were a lot of people there for sure. Well, let's talk about, leading up to this race, last week's qualifying, when we saw 3 Penske cars actually in the top 12, but then some drama occurred.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the two-time defending champ getting moved to the back row, Will Power as well, another notable name. But Penske, I was reading some articles leading up to the race, and, people, of course, different conspiracy theories with him, with his position at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway now. But man, I tell you, the cars availed themselves well. And I saw that Penske fired a lot of executives that were supposed to be overseeing that kind of thing. I think he fired them last week before the race.
Yeah, he did. And, it's a shame because most of those folks have been with him a long time. And I don't know, did that little modification. But as you and I know, tenths of seconds are a big deal at that race.
Yeah, especially where you start from, right? And that was the big news, especially if Newgarden could have finished. I mean, even if he wouldn't have won, but just the number of places gained, I think, was almost a record at one point. Perhaps it was near tied to the record they were talking about on the TV broadcast. So he ran a good race, and then he had that mechanical issue in the pits, which from where you were sitting, right, pit row, you saw an inordinate amount of action on pit row this year.
We saw quite a bit, yeah, right in front of us, just about. And, leading up to the race, McLaughlin was also in the top 12, but he crashed his car in morning practice before qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, then, just going from what I've saw and heard on TV, the track was cold, and he's trying to, break in the tires and, do the swerving and just hit a cold spot or something, maybe a little even moisture perhaps. And man, it was sad to see him. He was definitely distraught. And you feel so bad, not just for the driver, but the whole team. I think that's what a lot of people who maybe don't follow racing don't think about, is all the people involved in getting that car onto the track.
Yeah, and this is not a weekend event. This starts in early May after the Grand Prix, and then they go through enormous practice time, and then comes down to qualifying. Qualifying's a little different today. I was looking back at at an old schedule, I think from '95, and how much practice. And, pole day was the first Saturday, and that set the pole, and then everything else started happening after that. It's a little bit different today.
Yeah, a little bit different, and nobody driving. We had Helio in the race as kind of the grandfather, but nobody driving back in '95 is certainly driving now. And speaking of new guys, Robert Schwartzman, the first rookie on the pole since Teo Fabi, I think in '83. So that was exciting for him, and I know he didn't finish like he wanted to, but it was neat to see a rookie on the pole again. Yeah,
that was great to see, and that's a new team. Had a rookie team on the pole this year.
Yeah, and interesting, his ethnicity is Israeli Russian, so you don't see too many Israeli Russian guys in open wheel. So really, really interesting storyline for him.
Of course, then you had the veteran Takuma Sato sitting in the middle of the row, 48 years old, and ended up leading the most laps. I just looked it up a moment ago, but then 51. Unfortunately overshot his pit stall.
Which we, again, you saw a lot of that. And I think the cold conditions, a lot of guys said the brakes were just locked up or gone and slid through and hit the wall or, overshot stops. And it was a problem, especially the early part of the race.
Well, speaking of brakes, on the warm-up lap, Scott Dixon comes by and there's fire from rotor, caliper, something on the brakes, and it starts smoking. And I thought, wow, he's done before we even start.
Right. I think, advantageous for him was McLaughlin causing the yellow, right? So they didn't have to start running hard. And they said it was a left rear caliper that they changed out. And
so that kind of ruined his day of having to change out a caliper. But kudos to the team that they got it changed, got him back out. And
he, I think this year too, he just passed, looking at some of the notes from the race, Pat's AJ Foyt's record, 20 consecutive races in his number.
Well, and the other was he now has 408 IndyCar starts, not Indy 500s, but IndyCar starts, which just passed the legend Mario Andretti, who had a 407.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there was some cool history made, yesterday, even aside from the winner of the pole, Helio, trying to find that stat I was reading about. He had the fastest lap, which that's kind of interesting. And then, fourth place all time in starts with 25, with Foyt being 35 and Mario 29 and Alan Senior 27. And the one other piece of history, Helio, he completed the race, the full race for the 19th time. And that's a record. And check this out, Dan. He's run 25 Indy 500s. How many times do you think he's finished the race? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I'm assuming you've looked it up.
Yeah, it's not something I have in memory, but 23 out of 25 races, he has logged the full go. And
wow.
That's a testament, obviously, to him as a driver, but as we were talking about earlier, the team. Yeah, that's an amazing stat. That might be one that will last for a long.
He still has just this fire, this passion. I watched a reel on him showing off his motorhome, and it was just like, oh my gosh, he's selling everybody on a motorhome, just showing off all the details of it.
I'd still like to see him get number 5. That would be well deserved.
Yeah, that place would go crazy.
No, I was going to say another veteran who we like, Ed Carpenter, and his team was running really well, the cars in his team for a period, but he's now driven almost 10,000 laps at Indy, 9,975, which is 5th place all time. He surpassed Tony Kanaan at this race. So
wow,
good to see Ed doing well, and another Hoosier, Connor Daly, had a good run there for a while too.
Yeah, Connor, and then David Malukas, another young American who got injured early last year, and so he lost his ride with Arrow. And this year he got on with AJ, and he ran a really strong race. So that was good to see.
Yeah, let's talk about your friend Stingray Robb for a minute.
Yeah, Stingray.
Unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah, it was like we couldn't see that crash. It went past us, but looks like watching the replay that Kyle Larson, who's a NASCAR driver and was trying to do the double by going Indy 500 and then doing the NASCAR 600 in Charlotte. But looked like you saw it and you texted me what happened, but he downshifted in the corner, lost it, just hit Kiffin Simpson, took Kiffin out, and then Stingray tried to avoid, went up high and got in the marbles and just came down and hit the barrier.
Yeah, and then he got out and his stood up on his car and basically raised his hands in exasperation. Basically, what are you doing, Kyle Larson? But very, very measured interview later on when they talked to him, and he had mentioned too, they just didn't sweep it quite high enough. If they would have swept it a little bit higher, he might have been able to stay in it. But man, it just shows you those high speeds. You have a slight touch, and it'll do it to you.
For him and Kiffin, just wrong place, wrong time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but I texted his family. I said, "Hey, great interview he gave. Didn't place any blame, and he's just a fine young man. So hopefully he had a great finish at Long Beach. So night.
Well, and got to lead the 500 last year, and I think last year was the record for number of race leaders, if my memory serves me correct. And I think this year there was 13 or 14 guys up front at different times, with Hunter Ray and Sato, I think, the top lappers yesterday.
So, but then we see Alex Palou. He's won 5 of 6 races this year. This young guy is just hard to beat.
Well, and the thing yesterday, and you and I were texting about this, was, what's his fuel strategy going to be toward the end? Ericsson, of course, got bumped with a post race inspection down to the end. But Ericsson was great on fuel, great on tires, and Alex was questionable on fuel and questionable on tires. But man, once he got the word from the engineer and from the team, he went right around Ericsson, and I think those 2 cars that were lapped down really helped him extend his fuel where it didn't have any worries towards the end there. So it was great to see him win. And you called it. You said there's going to be a first-time winner this year, and certainly fun to see him win.
Well, it was clear. You're looking at, of course, Ericsson's won. And so I'm looking at that list and I'm going, oh, man, there's got to be a first-timer here. And I was really happy to see that. It was great to see. Well, now AJ's car has moved to second place. You mentioned the penalty against Ericsson, which is a shame.
Yeah. Well, and another guy who just has been so consistent these last 4 or 5 years, Pato Award, up to third. And, he's going to be breaking through, I think, in a victory here in the next couple of years. It seems he's poised for that.
Yeah, and he is a fan favorite. You could just sense it around the Speedway, and of course a couple other races we've been to. People just love him, and he's got the energy of like Elio, who just gets people excited. And AJ had another car in 5th with Ferrucci. Yeah, good to see.
Yep, and of course Ganassi winning, and I saw a stat. I think it was his 6th team win. And second all time behind Penske with 20, maybe. So long way to go. And, but hey, I think it's fun to see. You don't want to call a Ganassi team an underdog by any stretch, but when it seems like lately when a Penske car doesn't win, it's kind of a unique situation here.
Yeah, for sure. And I was telling you, I found myself a bit emotional yesterday. It's just an emotional race, not just the auto race, but just I call it kind of the tribute to America, the tribute to our veterans, tribute to those who have given their lives. But boy, it was seemed like it was just bigger than I had seen in the past.
Yeah, it was neat to see on TV, and I'm sure even better in person. The helicopters there going around the pace lap, that was really cool. That was not something I've ever seen before at Indy.
Yeah, that was very cool. We sat in stand A, which we'd never sat there. We said they're great seats, especially if the sun was out and just baking you because it's covered. But one of the things we missed was couldn't really see those helicopters. You know, you could see them, but you couldn't see them. And then my wife loves it when the fighter jets fly over, and we really couldn't see them until they made their second pass over and they flew right behind our head. That was pretty cool.
Well, another year in the book. Yeah, cell phone connection much better now than the times we tried to do it when you're inside IMS.
Yeah.
Always a lot of fun. I mean, I'm looking forward to maybe going again next year, but it's just about as fun to watch it on the big screen here and text you and give each other feedback and ask questions. What'd you see? Were they showing on TV? What'd you see live?
I know, that was fun.
Fun experience.
Yeah, I'm sure we had a few hundred texts going back and forth.
My phone actually died at one point, so wasn't paying attention. But yeah.
If you don't go to the race next year, maybe we should at least go to qualifying or practice or something, just to hang out there.
We'll do it. We can still text one another, even though we're sitting next to each other.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's always a pleasure, Jeff, to do this, and appreciate it.
Yep. Hey, it's this Hoosier Boys, one of my favorite days of the year, so it's always good.
Yep. 364 days, and we'll do it again.
All right, my friend.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Dan, the Road Trip Guy. I hope you enjoyed our journey today and the stories that were shared. If you have any thoughts or questions or stories of your own, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and family and help us to spread the joy of road trips and great conversations. Until next time, keep driving, keep exploring, and keep having those amazing conversations. Safe travels. And remember, you can find me on the internet at dantheroadtripguy.com.